Imagine a nation so rich that its streets were paved with the promises of a golden future, a place where black gold flowed like a never-ending river, making it the envy of the entire world. But what happens when a giant forgets that its strength comes not from its own hands, but from a higher power? Today on Lumen Peace, we are peeling back the veil on a mystery that has shaken the foundations of modern history. We are diving into a story of shadows and light, of pride and ultimate reckoning. Why did the richest crown in South America crumble into dust? This isn't just a political tragedy, it is a profound lesson written in the stars and the soil. Stay with us, because what we are about to reveal about the justice of God through the fall of Venezuela will change the way you look at your own life forever. You cannot afford to miss the revelation waiting at the end of this journey. The story of Venezuela begins with a dazzling display of abundance. Decades ago, this land was a titan. It held the largest oil reserves on the planet, a treasure chest that seemed bottomless. The world looked at Venezuela and saw a giant that could never fall. There was a sense of invincibility, a belief that wealth alone could secure a nation's soul. But the Bible warns us that pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. When a nation or a person begins to believe that their success is solely their own making, they enter a dangerous territory. The giant grew comfortable, and in that comfort, it grew blind. In the high towers of Caracas, the talk was of eternal prosperity, but beneath the surface, the spiritual foundation was cracking. Justice is not merely about the distribution of coins, it is about the alignment of the heart with truth. The giant began to rely on its own shadow, ignoring the cries of the humble and the whispers of wisdom. We see this pattern throughout history, from ancient Babylon to the Roman Empire. When the creature begins to think it is the creator, the scales of divine justice begin to tilt. Venezuela's transformation from a beacon of hope to a valley of shadows is a modern-day parable, a loud cry to everyone listening. What are you building your life upon? If it is built on the shifting sands of material wealth, the tide is coming. As we look at the glitz and glamour of that era, we must ask, where was the gratitude? Where was the humility? The fall was not an accident of economics alone. It was the result of a spiritual vacuum. When God's principles of stewardship and integrity are replaced by greed and arrogance, the giant begins to hollow out from the inside. It looks strong on the outside, but it is a shell waiting for a breeze to knock it over. And that breeze was coming, turning into a storm that no amount of oil could calm. Do you believe that a nation can lose everything in the blink of an eye as a form of divine correction? The giant has fallen, but the story is far from over. In the next part, we will explore the moment the darkness moved in and what happens when the humblest are forced to find strength in the ruins. But there is a secret element to this collapse that no one is talking about, something that connects the golden palaces to the empty shelves of today. Are you ready to see what lies beneath the surface?
As the sun began to set on the era of Venezuelan opulence, the transition from abundance to scarcity did not happen overnight, but through a slow, agonizing erosion of the soul. This is where we see the second movement of divine justice, the testing of the heart through the removal of idols. For too long, the nation's idol was the oil derrick in the surging price of a barrel. When we place our ultimate trust in anything other than the divine, we create a fragile reality. The giant was standing on a pedestal of glass, and the weight of its own pride was becoming unbearable. The warning signs were everywhere, yet the leaders and the people chose to look at the reflection of their own glory rather than the gathering clouds on the horizon. Divine justice is often misunderstood as mere punishment, but in truth, it is a corrective fire. It is the process of stripping away the false to reveal the true. As the economy began to fracture, the world watched in disbelief. How could a country with such vast resources see its currency turn into worthless paper? How could the lights go out in cities that once burned brighter than the stars? This was the beginning of the humbling. The scriptures tell us that God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. As the pride of the giant was systematically dismantled, a new and painful reality set in. The supermarkets emptied, the hospitals fell silent, and the very ground seemed to cry out for a restoration that money could no longer buy. This phase of the journey teaches us about the desert experience. Just as the ancient Israelites were led into the wilderness to learn that man does not live by bread alone, Venezuela entered a national wilderness. The giant was being stripped of its armor, its riches, and its prestige. In the eyes of the world, it was a catastrophe. In the eyes of eternity, it was an invitation to return to what truly matters. We see families who once lived in luxury now sharing a single piece of bread, and in that breaking of bread, something miraculous began to happen. The arrogance that defined the golden years began to melt away, replaced by a desperate, raw need for something higher than government promises or oil revenues. The fall of the giant is a mirror for our own lives. We often spend our years building towers of personal success, thinking we are untouchable. But the story of Venezuela reminds us that the higher the tower, the more devastating the collapse if the foundation is not built on divine truth. The justice of God is not about making us suffer, it is about making us see. It is about clearing the vision of a people blinded by their own reflection. As the darkness deepened over the land, the stage was being set for the most unexpected part of the story, the rising of the humble. The giant is now on its knees, gasping for air in a world that has turned its back. But did you know that in the heart of the greatest poverty, a different kind of wealth is being discovered? There is a hidden treasure buried in the ruins of Venezuela that is more valuable than all the oil in the world. Next, we will reveal how the humble are beginning to rise and the specific spiritual lesson that can protect your house from the coming storms. Can a broken nation actually be closer to God than a rich one? The answer will shock you. When the giant finally collapsed, a silence fell over the land, a silence born of shock and the heavy weight of loss. But it is in this very silence that the voice of the divine becomes the loudest. As the systems of men failed, the people of Venezuela were forced to look upward. This is the mystery of the rising of the humble. When you have nothing left but your breath and your faith, you discover a strength that the wealthy can never understand. In the streets where gold once ruled, a new currency began to emerge, the currency of compassion, endurance, and spiritual awakening. The justice of God is not just about bringing the high low, it is about lifting the lowly from the dust. In this third stage of the journey, we witness the incredible resilience of the human spirit when it is anchored in something eternal. While the world saw images of long lines and empty shelves, a deeper story was being written in the hearts of the humble. Mothers who had nothing shared their last morsel of food with neighbors. Strangers began to pray together in the dark during the long power outages. The pride that once divided the social classes began to dissolve in the shared heat of the struggle. This is the refiner's fire. Just as gold is purified by heat to remove its impurities, the Venezuelan people were being purified of the vanity that had once consumed the nation. We must ask ourselves, is it possible that the giant had to fall so that the soul could live? The justice of God often looks like a tragedy to the physical eye, but to the spiritual eye, it is a rescue mission. The humble are those who recognize their total dependence on the Creator. In the ruins of the economy, thousands found a richness of spirit they never knew in the days of plenty. They learned that joy is not tied to a bank account and that peace is not found in a shopping mall. This is the lesson for all of us today. The things we think are protecting us are often the very things keeping us from our true purpose. The humble are rising because they have been stripped of the illusions that keep the rest of the world asleep. While the giant relied on its oil, the humble have learned to rely on the manna from heaven.
This shift in perspective is the most powerful weapon against any crisis. As the structure of the old world crumbles, a new spiritual architecture is being built by those who have been tested by the fire. But as the humble begin to find their footing, a new question arises. What is the ultimate purpose of this suffering, and where is the light at the end of this very long tunnel? The giant lies in the dust, and the humble have found a secret strength in the shadows. But there is a final trial approaching, a moment of truth where the nation must decide if it will truly change or repeat the mistakes of the past. There is a specific prophecy hidden in the movement of history that points to a total transformation. Do you want to know the sign that the justice of God is about to turn into a season of unprecedented restoration? The next part will reveal the turning point that no one expected. The story of Venezuela has reached its most critical junction. We have seen the giant fall and the humble begin to stir in the ruins, but now we must face the deepest mystery of divine justice, the moment of the great return. You see, God does not allow a nation to go through the fire just to leave them in the ashes. The fire is meant to consume the wood, hay, and stubble of human arrogance, leaving behind only that which is eternal. As the Venezuelan people continue to navigate this wilderness, a profound shift is happening that the news cameras never capture. It is a turning point of the soul, where the collective cry for help has moved from a demand for political change to a desperate plea for spiritual intervention. This is where we see the true nature of God's heart. He is not a distant judge watching a tragedy unfold. He is the potter reshaping a vessel that was marred in his hands. The rising of the humble is not just about survival, it is about a new kind of leadership emerging from the shadows. In the midst of the struggle, we are seeing a generation of people who value integrity over influence and mercy over money. These are the ones who have been forged in the furnace of affliction. When a person has lost everything of this world, they become dangerous to the darkness because they can no longer be bought, intimidated, or fooled by the glitz of false promises. The justice of God is now moving into its restorative phase, but restoration doesn't always look like the return of the old riches. Sometimes the greatest restoration is the return of a nation's character. Throughout history, whenever a people humbled themselves and sought the face of the divine, the heavens responded. We are starting to see the sign of the harvest in the most unlikely places. Small communities are thriving through radical sharing, and spiritual movements are igniting in the hearts of the youth who never knew the golden age of the giant. They are building a new Venezuela, not with oil, but with the stones of faith and the mortar of brotherhood. But don't be mistaken, the road is still steep. The remnants of the old giant still linger, trying to reclaim its lost throne through fear and control. This is the final battle of the spirit. Will the nation slide back into the patterns of pride, or will it fully embrace the path of the humble? This tension is what makes the Venezuelan story a blueprint for the entire world. It is a warning to the nations that are currently giants and a beacon of hope for those who feel they are under the boot of injustice. The scales are balancing, and the weights are being measured by a hand that never makes a mistake. We are standing on the edge of the final revelation. The giant has fallen, the humble are rising, and the turning point is here. But there is one final question that remains. What does this mean for you? Behind the headlines and the history books lies a personal message from the Creator to every listener watching this screen right now. In the final part of our journey, we will reveal the hidden key to the justice of God, a secret that will either be your greatest comfort or your greatest wake-up call. Are you prepared to hear the final verdict of the Lumen Peace?
We have reached the conclusion of this journey through the shadows of the giant and the rising of the humble. What Venezuela teaches us is that divine justice is not an act of vengeance, but an act of profound love. When the giant of Venezuela fell, it wasn't just a collapse of an economy, it was the collapse of a false god. The final lesson is this:
God loves the people too much to let them keep trusting in something that cannot save them. The hidden key we promise to reveal is the realization that true security never comes from the resources of the earth, but from the source of all life. The justice of God ensures that every heart eventually faces the truth of its own fragility, so that it may discover the strength of the eternal. As we look at the horizon of this nation, we see a light that is different from the neon glitz of the past. It is the steady, unshakable glow of a people who have found their soul in the middle of a storm. For you, the listener, this story is a mirror. Are you building a giant in your own life? Are you relying on your career, your bank account, or your own strength to define your worth? The fall of the giant is a reminder that these things are temporary. The rise of the humble is a promise that when you surrender your pride, you gain a kingdom that cannot be shaken. The justice of God is always working to move us from the throne of our own ego to the peace of His presence. The story of Venezuela is still being written, and its ending will be one of the most powerful testimonies of restoration in human history. But for now, it stands as a global beacon of warning and hope. It tells us that no one is too big to fall, and no one is too low to be lifted up. Lumen Peace exists to bring these truths to light, to wake up the sleeping, and to comfort the brokenhearted. We are all travelers on this path, and the justice we see in the world is a reflection of the order we must seek in our own hearts. The giant has fallen, the humble have risen, and the light is finally breaking through the clouds. If this journey has touched your heart and opened your eyes to the deeper workings of the divine, we invite you to join our community. This message is too important to be kept in the dark. Please leave your like on this video to help us reach more souls with this revelation. Subscribe to the Lumen Peace channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a moment of insight and spiritual truth. Share this story with someone who needs to know that even in the ruins there is a plan, and even in the fall there is a Father waiting to catch you. Thank you for watching, and may you always walk in the light of true justice and peace. What part of the giant's fall resonated most with your own life? Tell us in the comments below. Your story might be the light someone else is looking for. We will see you in the next revelation. Stay humble, stay peaceful.